Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today we're going to be looking at how Salesforce is changing the energy sector. We've got this excerpt from Salesforce Energy and Utilities Cloud by Rehan Jawaid,
Oh, cool.
who's a Salesforce consultant.
Yeah.
And we've been trying to answer a few questions like how are energy companies actually using Salesforce? What are some of the alternatives out there?
Yeah.
And what does all this mean for the future of energy? So,
It's interesting. Salesforce, we usually think about them for sales and marketing,
right.
but they're really becoming a major player in the energy sector. And it makes sense, with all the changes happening in energy right now. It's a really dynamic time.
Absolutely. It's not just about keeping the lights on anymore. We're seeing this huge shift towards sustainable energy.
Yeah.
And Jawad really emphasizes how Salesforce is providing the tools to navigate this transition. He talks about how they're helping energy companies improve customer service, become more efficient, and also drive innovation.
Yeah.
All super important in this evolving energy landscape.
And the thing is, it goes beyond just installing solar panels or wind turbines. I mean,
Right.
the Salesforce is helping companies use things like AI and machine learning to manage the energy grid,
Mm.
which is getting more and more complex all the time. I mean, imagine
Yeah.
algorithms that can actually learn from how the grid behaves,
Yeah.
from weather patterns, even from like individual energy consumption habits.
Yeah.
That's how we can optimize energy distribution in real time.
So it's almost like having this really smart brain managing the entire energy flow,
Yeah.
making sure everything runs smoothly and efficiently. But what does that actually mean for the energy companies themselves and also for their customers? Like, what are the benefits?
Well, take customer service, for example. Energy companies are under a lot of pressure to provide a good customer experience these days.
Yeah.
And Salesforce gives them the tools to do that.
Mm.
We're talking about things like personalized energy reports, recommendations for saving energy, and even just better communication so that customers actually understand their energy usage.
So it's more than just sending a bill every month. It's about creating a more engaging experience for the customer.
Exactly.
So, like, data transparency is important here.
It's key, and that transparency builds trust,
Yep.
especially for customers who are environmentally conscious. I mean,
Yeah.
think about it. If you can actually see how your solar panels are
Mhm.
impacting your energy bill and, your carbon footprint, you're more likely to stick with solar and maybe even tell other people about it.
Right.
This could help speed up the adoption of sustainable energy solutions.
That's a really good point. So Salesforce is almost acting as a catalyst for change, helping to shift consumer behavior
Yeah.
towards these more sustainable choices. But is there a downside to this? I mean, with all this reliance on data, are there any risks?
Well, that is a good question. Some people do worry about the security of the energy grid. With all this data, it could be more vulnerable to cyber attacks.
Hmm.
However, Salesforce does take security very seriously.
Okay.
They have really strong measures in place to protect sensitive data and make sure that the energy grid stays stable and reliable.
It seems like a real balancing act, harnessing the power of all this data, but also making sure it's protected. So is Salesforce the only option out there? What about these other platforms that Joide mentions?
There are other platforms out there, yeah. You've got Oracle Utilities, SAP Utilities, SmartFlex, Payit,
Okay.
and another Oracle solution that focuses specifically on energy efficiency. They all have pros and cons.
Right.
For example, Oracle Utilities, they've been in the utility sector for a long time.
Right.
So some might say they have a better understanding of all the regulations and compliance requirements.
Yeah. That regulatory landscape is always a key factor in energy.
Absolutely. So, Salesforce offers a lot of tools, but energy companies really need to think about their specific needs
Uh-huh.
and choose the platform that best fits them, whether that's Salesforce or one of the competitors.
So it's all about finding the right fit, not just going with the most well-known option. But what about real-world examples? Are there companies actually using these platforms successfully?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Jawaid talks about Veolia UK. They're using Salesforce to focus on both their people and the planet, which I think is a good example of how sustainability and business success can go hand in hand.
It's good to hear about companies embracing these technologies to make a difference, and it ties in with what we were talking about earlier, this whole idea of moving towards decentralized energy systems.
Right. And just so everyone's on the same page, a decentralized energy system basically means moving away from these big centralized power plants
Yeah.
and going towards a model where energy is produced closer to where it's used, often from renewable sources like solar panels on people's rooftops.
So instead of having these huge power plants sending energy over long distances,
Right.
we're moving towards a more localized and flexible grid. And it sounds like Salesforce could play a role in managing this new energy landscape.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine a future where homes and businesses can produce their own energy
Yeah.
and even sell extra energy back to the grid. Salesforce could help manage all of these energy transactions and make sure everything flows smoothly.
It's a big change in how we think about energy. But what does it mean for everyday people? The average energy consumer.
Well, for one thing, they might have more control over their energy choices and their energy costs.
Okay.
Imagine being able to track your energy usage in real time,
Yeah.
optimize your energy consumption,
Uh,
and even choose where your energy comes from based on your own values.
it sounds pretty futuristic.
It does, right.
Yeah.
But what needs to happen for this to become a reality? What are the hurdles we need to overcome?
That's a great question. And it's one we'll be exploring in the next part of our deep dive. We're going to dig into the challenges and opportunities of this transition towards a decentralized and sustainable energy future. Welcome back to the deep dive. Before the break, we were talking about this shift towards a more decentralized energy system, this future where homes and businesses can generate their own power. It's a pretty big change. And I want to dig a bit deeper into how Salesforce is impacting the energy landscape right now.
Okay, yeah. Let's get into some specifics. One area where Salesforce is already making a difference is in customer service.
Hmm.
Jawaid talks about how Salesforce is helping companies create a more personalized and engaging customer experience.
I like the sound of better customer service. What does that actually look like in the energy sector, though? It's not like you're choosing between, different brands of coffee.
True. But customers these days want a lot more than just a monthly bill. They want things like easy-to-use online portals, they want to see their energy usage in real time, and they want to hear from their providers proactively.
Yeah.
Salesforce helps energy companies do all of that.
So instead of just reacting to problems,
Yeah,
companies can use Salesforce to be more proactive
exactly.
and build better relationships with their customers.
Right. For example, Salesforce can help companies create personalized energy reports,
Yeah.
showing customers exactly where they're using the most energy and giving them suggestions for how to save money. It's like
Good.
having a personal energy coach.
That's a good way to put it. It's a lot more effective than those generic, turn off the lights campaigns.
Yeah, definitely.
It's about making energy efficiency more personal and actionable.
Exactly. And connecting this back to decentralized energy, Salesforce could even help customers manage their own mini power plants, like tracking the energy generation from their solar panels.
So Salesforce is giving people the tools to actually participate in the energy system,
Yeah,
not just be passive consumers.
that's the goal. But it goes beyond just customers. Salesforce is also changing the way field operations work in the energy sector. Jawaid talks about how it's like giving technicians a digital command center right in their pockets.
Okay. So these are the people out there fixing power lines, installing smart meters, keeping everything running. How does Salesforce actually help them do their jobs?
Well, they have access to real-time data,
Okay.
customer records, work orders, everything they need to work efficiently, no matter where they are.
It sounds like that could really reduce downtime if there's like a power outage.
Exactly. Like, let's say there's a power outage. With Salesforce, technicians can quickly see which areas are affected,
Uh-huh.
figure out the damage, and coordinate repairs a lot faster.
Okay.
So they can get the power back on as quickly as possible, which is better for everyone.
And speaking of complex systems, how does Salesforce help companies manage the energy grid itself, especially with all these renewable energy sources coming online?
That's another area where Salesforce is really helpful. Remember we talked about AI and machine learning before?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Salesforce can use those technologies to predict energy demand
Okay.
based on things like weather patterns and historical data.
Mm-hmm.
That helps balance supply and demand
Right.
and ensures that there's always enough energy, even when it's cloudy or the wind isn't blowing.
So with all these changes in how we produce energy, we don't want to end up going back to the dark ages, literally.
Right.
But doesn't all this make the grid even more vulnerable to those cyber attacks we were talking about?
That's a good point. Security is really important. And Salesforce has invested a lot in cybersecurity to protect against any threats.
Okay.
It's a constantly evolving field, but they're working to stay ahead of the curve and keep the grid stable.
That's good to hear. So we've talked about how Salesforce can help with customer service, field operations, and energy distribution.
Right.
But what about the regulatory side of things? There are a lot of rules and regulations in the energy sector.
Oh, definitely. Compliance can be a huge headache for energy companies, but Salesforce can help with that too. It can automate compliance tasks, track audits, and make sure that companies are meeting all the latest requirements.
Okay.
It takes a lot of the guesswork and manual effort out of it.
So they're not just checking boxes, but they can actually focus on the bigger picture.
Exactly. And while we've been focusing on Salesforce, remember there are those other platforms too.
Right.
They each have their own unique approach, and some might be better than Salesforce in certain areas.
So choosing the right platform is kind of like putting a puzzle together. You have to find the right pieces that fit your needs and make a complete picture.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's all about understanding your needs and priorities before you make a decision.
Mm.
Like Oracle Utilities, they've been in the utility industry for a long time.
Right.
So they might be a better choice for companies that really need strong billing and customer information systems.
So it's about choosing the best tool for the job, not just going with the most popular option.
Exactly.
It sounds like there's a lot to think about.
There is. And that's why it's important to do your research
Yeah.
and carefully evaluate all the options before making a decision.
We've talked a lot about the specifics of Salesforce and how it's impacting the energy sector, but I want to take a step back and look at the big picture. What does all of this mean for the future of energy? What kind of world are we moving towards?
That's a really good question. And it's one we'll explore in more depth in the next part of our deep dive. We'll look at the possibilities and the challenges as we move towards this new energy landscape.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been talking about how Salesforce is changing the energy sector, but what does this all mean for the average person? What can we actually expect to see as this energy evolution unfolds?
It's a really exciting time to be an energy consumer. The future of energy is going to be a lot more personalized, interactive, and sustainable. And that's partly thanks to platforms like Salesforce.
Okay. So what does personalized energy actually look like? It's not like we get to choose our energy flavors like at an ice cream shop.
Not quite, but it will be a lot more tailored to your needs. All that data that Salesforce helps energy companies collect. Well, it's not just for them. Imagine getting personalized energy reports that show you exactly where you're using the most energy in your home. And then you get recommendations for how to adjust things. So you can save money and maybe even reduce your carbon footprint.
So instead of just getting a bill every month with a huge scary number on it, I can actually see how my behavior is impacting my energy use and make some changes. It's like having a financial advisor, but for energy.
That's a good way to think about it. And it goes beyond just understanding your usage. Imagine you could set your energy preferences. Like maybe you want to prioritize renewable sources, even if it costs a bit more. Or you could get alerts when energy prices are low so you can run your dishwasher or washing machine at the best time.
So it gives you more control and flexibility. Energy works for you, not the other way around. What about this interactive part? Does that mean I'm going to be chatting with my smart meter every morning?
Maybe not chatting, but you'll definitely be interacting with it in new ways. As smart homes and connected devices become more common, you'll be able to control your energy systems much more easily, like adjusting your thermostat from your phone while you're at work, or programming your home to preheat or cool down based on your schedule.
It's all about convenience and having more control. But with all this tech, we can't forget about sustainability. How does Salesforce contribute to making energy greener?
That's where the data transparency comes in. Salesforce allows companies to track their environmental impact really closely, and they know that consumers are paying attention. This pressure from customers, along with their own sustainability goals, it encourages companies to switch to renewable energy, develop more efficient technologies, and reduce those carbon emissions.
So it creates this positive feedback loop. Technology, consumer demand, and environmental responsibility all pushing towards a more sustainable energy system.
Exactly. It's a powerful combination. But let's be realistic. There are still challenges. The transition to a decentralized and sustainable energy future is complicated. Technology can't do it all.
We can't just rely on fancy software to fix everything.
Nope. It's going to take collaboration. Governments, energy companies, tech providers, and of course consumers all need to work together.
So what can the average person do besides, checking their personalized energy reports?
There's a lot you can do. Support policies that promote renewable energy and energy efficiency. Make smart choices about your energy use at home and at work. Maybe think about investing in renewable energy technologies like solar panels. And stay informed about the future of energy. That's really important.
It sounds like it's a team effort. It's not just about the technology, but also about changing how we think and behave.
You got it. We've seen how Salesforce is shaping the energy landscape. But ultimately, the future of energy is up to all of us.
That's a great point to end on. As we wrap up this deep dive, I encourage everyone to keep learning about this topic. The energy world is evolving quickly, and staying informed is the first step towards creating a more sustainable energy future for everyone. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive, and until next time, keep those energy saving light bulbs shining brightly.